Okay. My name's David Maginn. I own holiday cottages and a small farm of about 50 acres on the lower slopes of the Mourne Mountains. I am probably not defined as an active farmer anymore by the Department of Agriculture, but I would be a keen environmentalist. Just to make the environment better, we have an annual survey by RSPB, and they have identified something like 33 different species of bird on the farm, and 5 or so are on the red list. There's actually an Irish red list and a UK red list, and between it we're 5 birds on one or other red list. And they say we must be doing something right in the farm. I don't know what it is, but we keep planting a lot of trees, a lot of new hedgerows and stuff. Ironically, if I do plant a hedgerow, it's thorn, and we replace the gorse. The gorse along the roadside in particular was too easy to set fire to. One of the reasons being that gorse drops little fine needles. They're quite rich, quite full of oil, and that oil sets fire very, very quickly. I was once told that these fire starters, and I do believe that most of the fires, if not all the fires in the countryside, are set deliberately or on some occasions accidentally by a barbecue being left behind or whatever. But one fire brigade person explained to me that sometimes they do use an accelerant in like a squirty bottle and squirt it along the bottom of the hedge and throw a match and drive on. But gorse does start to burn very, very quickly. So on our farm, if there's any roadside hedges of gorse, we generally now try and remove them and replace them with thorn, which is less liable to burn. It's got more of a fleshy leaf. Now, on our own farm, we have a history or a tradition of burning gorse on the hills. And one of the reasons for doing that is to let a new grass come back for the sheep. And one of my childhood memories is our father sending us out at probably end of February, March, just as the season was starting to get going, and we were to create a 20-foot margin around the farm, around each field, so that when he did burn the gorse, the fire would only run through the gorse within that field, reach the kind of fire break and stop, and only burn the gorse. It did not jump into the neighbours' fields, did not jump into the adjacent forest. And to this day, if we are getting rid of gorse on the farm, and what we do is we actually pull it out with a digger, pull it towards the middle of the field, make a pyre, a big heap, and set fire to it, and phone the fire brigade in the morning and say, we're going to burn this gorse, we're going to watch it all day and make sure it's kind of died down at the end of the day. And on some occasions, we now bring in specialist machinery like a grinder, which grinds the gorse up and does not need to make a fire. And my view is that the gorse actually, you can nearly see it creeping out into the field. It would nearly take over. So that's why we control it. That's what, there's always been a tradition of lighting gorse fires in this area. And I actually think they're pre-Christian. Easter time, there's a lot of fires. We think they're pre-Christian, possibly to do with a ritual of lighting a fire as the cattle were sent up onto the mountains as a kind of way of blessing or bringing protection to those cattle. And that tradition is carried on to this modern day. And
what about the effects of the fires here?
Okay.
David, what do you think?
Well, there's 2 or 3 effects. It changes the plant life. There's the forest beside me has been burned quite frequently, and now the plant life around the entrance of those forests is a totally different plant species. It's actually, I have a funny feeling it's called something like firebomb plant. There's a technical name, a proper name for it, but it's one of those pioneer species that come into new land. It's a tall plant, maybe about 3 or 4 feet high, with a pink flower or in the summer. And those plants, you never see them anywhere else because they can't compete with indigenous plants. It's only on this kind of virgin land after a fire. Also, you get different grasses up on the hill. You get like a kind of a coarse, fast-growing grass that a pioneer species, which is just changing the nature of the vegetation. And some of the other effects of the fires is runoff. The turf is made kind of crumbly and then is washed away quite quickly down the streams, causes problems to the water authority. They have to filter the water out. They also have to adjust the pH of the water because the ash would be slightly alkaline. Now, ironically, they are trying to reduce the acidity of the water, and they've got their whole system set up to do that. But this adds an extra problem to them. So they've got to deal with that. They've got to sample the water more frequently and adjust the pH. And another problem with the fires is that those fires can get into the turf or the peat under the ground and linger for months. Actually, one fire near us, I remember the fire brigade had to come back for months afterwards, and little fires would just pop up out of the ground because they were still alive and could burn for months. Well, you often hear stories about coal mines that are on fire for years. Some of the turf here can be on fire for months, and it's a big risk. But that, I mean, my main view is that all the fires are deliberate. I think only on one occasion did I see one case where possibly an old white beer bottle used the magnifying sun rays to light a fire because it was in a location not where the arsonists could get to.
Robert, that's beautiful.